Okay, I think we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight for our training. We're super excited. This is going to be a really great training. For those of you who are doing the Chief Officer 2 program. Obviously, this will count as the second presentation. And we will record it if you want to go back and watch it again, or if you want to share it with your colleagues afterward. We'll put out the recording in a couple of days. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in. I'd like to introduce our presenter. So our presenter tonight is Captain Jenny McAleer. She's from a major metropolitan fire department in Maryland. She currently serves as the Director of Public Information, overseeing communications for more than 2,500 members who serve a county of roughly 625,000 residents. Jenny will tell you a little bit more about yourself, but please join me in welcoming Jenny. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am coming here from the East Coast, so it is about 8 o'clock my time. I'm excited to give you guys some information and talk to you a little bit about public relations and community engagement tonight. The class that we're doing is called Charging the Line, and it's really about that public relations community engagement model. And we're going to identify some strategic PR campaigns for you, techniques to actively engage with your communities, and then methods for evaluating PR efforts. So let me start off with this. I don't always like to do this, but I have been in your seats and I understand what it is like to have somebody talking to you that you have never met and you really have no idea what their background is. So I do think it's important for you all to know kind of where I came from and what this turkey has to offer you. I have 25 years in public safety. I started my career in the police department. I did almost 10 years over there as a SWAT officer and a police officer. I switched over to the fire department in 2008, and I was a firefighter, EMT, fire investigator, and instructor, and then now I'm a captain and the public information officer for the Anne Arundel County Fire Department. So I've had a really diverse career and a really fun career with a pretty strong background. The position that I've been in here for almost 5 years now. And like Michael said, we serve over 600,000 residents here. We are a major metropolitan department, and we are a combination department. So we have career and volunteer. We have about 1,000 career members and then about 1,500 volunteer members here in Anne Arundel County. 31 stations. I have my degree in communications, and I attended the FBI National Academy Session 281, which is an executive law enforcement course. If anybody gets the chance to ever do something like that, the EFO or the NA, I definitely highly recommend it. All right, so let's jump in because I know that's what you're here for. So we're going to talk about public relations for the fire department, how to manage the flow of information while gaining community engagement. The next hour is going to focus on controlling the narrative without sounding too scripted, building trust in your communities before the emergency happens, how to increase your engagement with the community, how to adapt to outreach strategies to fit your agency, and finally to measure what engagement works best for you. So what does that look like? Well, we no longer as a fire department just respond to emergencies anymore, right? We have a lot more expectations from the public. There is misinformation that is going out. How people get their news is a lot different nowadays than it was 10 years ago. Social media narratives. There is community trust gaps that take place, and other barriers that can be in your agency or your communities. Maybe you have very diverse communities, or language barriers, or even lack of personnel to take on these extra tasks. I just want to point out too, if anybody has any question, throw something in the chat, raise your hand. Feel free to engage as you wish, and we'll answer them. All right, so we're great. We're great at moving water, but we struggle at moving information in the fire department. And a lot of that has to do with everything that we do when it comes to community engagement. A lot of us aren't trained to do that. We're trained to handle emergencies, put out fires, put Band-Aids, bring, people to the hospital. And then now we're being tasked with all of these other types of jobs, which is engaging in the community, social media, public expectations, the speed of social media nowadays. Are others posting what you're doing? Do you guys have some of these non-vetted social media pages in your communities that are posting everything you're doing and they're shaping your narrative for you? And then are those Facebook comments positive, negative? Are you able to react to them? Do you have somebody designated to react to them? But community engagement in 2026 should absolutely be part of your operational readiness plans in your department. One Facebook post or comment can shape public perception. Your role as an agency is the safety of community and employees, first and foremost, professionalism in your actions, establishing public trust, and being reliable in your actions. Your words, for good or bad, once you put that uniform on, can carry some type of authority. And people are expecting to find out when there is an emergency in their community or things are happening in their community, what is happening now, whether or not you have a staff to do it. And there are some ways to get around designating people, but agencies really have to try to start to think about how they are going to designate people to certain roles. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Steve Jobs said it best, deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what you do. Do not let the media or rumor mill dictate the story of your department. You should decide when you're posting your news, when you're commenting, and your first tool is designating somebody in the agency or multiple people in the agencies to be those public information officers, to be those people who are actually answering on behalf of the agency and not just themselves. And then you can also have several people who are agency ambassadors. Who are those people that are helping with all these tasks? Because I'm going to tell you, even in a large department where I have 15 people on my staff, we still are reaching out to everybody in the department to make this stuff happen. So some things to think about, tools in your toolbox, but who is handling your social media platforms now? Do you have a designated social media platforms and what are they? Most of us have Facebook. Some of us have Instagram. Now we're getting, smaller. Do we have TikTok or YouTube or X? Those are the kind of things that we have to start thinking about because certain age groups, certain diversities are going to start checking certain areas more. And who's going to run all these things? Because it's a 24/7, 365-day year uh, task that we have to find people that can actually do and post things and know that it's going to get done in a professional manner. And it is what the agency wants to put out. Another thing that we need to think about is when the media calls, who's answering that phone call? When the media, our local media or our national media has questions about things that are going on, is there somebody designated to take that call? Are they calling you? If they're not, that's a huge problem because those are your direct connections to your communities. Are we dealing with misinformation out there or do we just ignore it? And then recruitment. Recruitment's a huge problem all over the nation, whether you're volunteer or career. But how are people finding your agency over other agencies to come and either get that career job or volunteer in your communities? So I like to say you can run, but you cannot hide from social media, from engagement, from being the ambassador of your own department. If you work for a fire department, whether it's volunteer or career, the modern fire department model is now that your operational currency is your reputation and your communities are asking for it and they need it. Departments with strong community engagement recover way faster from controversy than departments with very low community engagement. People will support a department that they feel connected to. Visibility will create familiarity, and familiarity creates trust in your communities. If they know you, they will start to trust you because they actually have that personal relationship with you, with your department. Think of podcasts, celebrities, the ones that you feel like you hear from the most, you start to almost trust more and you really don't know any more about them, but you have this sense that you do know them. It's the same concept. Fortune 500 model company businesses are not letting people come to them when they need them. They are putting their own news and word out. And we have all the platforms that are free now to do that ourselves with our agencies. For far too long, this was kind of the motto. You just put our head in the sand, hope for it to go away, but it is no longer a strategy, and we need to come up with better options. So, what do we do? Well, the first thing we can do is designate somebody as a PIO or a public information officer in your agency, and it can be more than one person. And if you're doing crisis communications, there should be somebody designated by the agency, whether it's the head of the agency or part of the command staff team. But they should be trained in public information. What information can we legally put out? Because there are legal requirements to things that we can and cannot put out. Are they confident in their ability to speak and answer questions? They should be trained through, some sort of a PIO certificate process. FEMA has a very good one. And then, after that, we can create all kinds of agency ambassadors. Those folks that are advocating for the agency, that are doing designated roles, but they don't necessarily have to be a PIO. Maybe they're getting the content for social media, or even posting on social media, or doing public education with the schools, community outreach, things like that. Those are your ambassadors. Here's what happens, and this is just the reality of it when we stay quiet. People will come up with the narrative. The social media will fill the gap every single time. There are people that want the follows that will make the headline sound like clickbait, whether it's true or it's untrue. And rumors, after a while, become fact, or the perception becomes reality to the communities or to that person. We have the ability now in our agencies to control that perception, to control the rumors, and to fill that gap. But we have to have people that are designated to do it. Public confidence decreases in our abilities when we are not the ones messaging our own incidents anymore. The public sees and knows that agencies are doing this, and they almost expect you to. So what do we want? We want to break our own news. No more do we need to use a local news outlet, and that's not to say that we shouldn't use them, because they are still very valuable for a lot of things. But we do not have to use them to break our own news in our communities. We can report our incidents just as quick and probably quicker than most news outlets can do it. And we can get more accurate information and control the narrative. So all of these things are things that are going to work towards a better community engagement and relationship with those folks in your community. Whether it's crisis engagement or your day-to-day engagement, you get to break your own news, right? So when we look at like fatal fires, structure fires, hazmat incidents, road closures, huge issue for people in, that are traveling on specific roads to know these things. Wildland fire incidents, those are all crisis communications. Those are incidents, emergencies that are happening that people want up-to-date information in real time. And then we have all the rest of it. This is the stuff that builds the trust. This is the stuff that brings people together. This is the stuff that really kind of bonds your community to your fire agency. And that's those reunions after an incident with people that were in an emergency, day-to-day operations of the fire department, community outreach events, and fire prevention outreach. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about crisis communication first. We should be first. All right, there's really three rules in this, but we should be first. And not necessarily with all the details, but first to acknowledge an incident and give them a place to go for more information, right? So we're telling them there is, a motor vehicle collision in this area and the road is closed. More information to follow on our Facebook or on X, right? Give them that initial information, because by the time you call the media and they actually put something either on their social media or on the actual 5 o'clock news, we're already letting our folks know what's happening. Be accurate. Credibility is key, and this is where we will win every single time, because we will have the most up-to-date, credible information than anybody else. So even if you make a mistake, because we do, sometimes we get information and it's not accurate, All we have to do is immediately go back and fix it, and it won't be hard to get back the trust that from that mistake as long as you fix it immediately. But be first, try to be as accurate as possible. If you're not and you make a mistake, just go back and correct it immediately. And then the last thing is just be human. People want authentic leaders. They want to understand or feel like they understand what the community is dealing with, right? So, the tone, how they react. Your tone will always beat a statistic every single time. Authenticity is your friend, and you can win that connection just from being human and not a robot. All right, so first thing we got to do is we got to be prepared. Anybody that goes into any kind of crisis communication, whether it's a social media post, whether it's a press conference, or even an on camera with news. We want to do something that I like to call run the bases. This is not a concept that I came up with. This is a concept that was taught in a master level first responder PIO class. But it's coming up with what we want to say, what our narrative is, and the bases are simple. In the middle and the pitcher's mound right there is the emotion. What is the emotion of the folks in the community? Are they disheartened? Are they scared? Are they fearful? You know, whatever that emotion is, we need to make sure that we're recognizing that and we're communicating to that. The next one is our first base, and that's just the policy. What is the policy as far as what we can share and what we can't share? What are we doing in that policy on that incident? Then we go to the procedures, and that's just what your crews are doing. Tell people what they're doing. They want to hear this stuff. They get excited to hear this stuff. That's why they go and they watch all of these, true crime shows and Chicago fires and all the stuff that we cringe at, but they watch it because they get excited for that. They want to know what we do and what we can't do. So that second base is those procedures. Our third base is a call to action. If we can give our community members something to do to make them feel like they're participating, that's huge. It could be as easy as stay away from the area, the road is closed due to a structure fire or due to an accident, but give them something to do. And then who can we highlight during we have a moment to highlight? Can we highlight our own people and what they do? Or do we have special ops out there? Is Red Cross coming? Or can we highlight them? Do we have any mutual aid or stakeholders that we can thank or highlight? But prior to even going into that communication or that engagement, we're going to come up with what we want to talk about and what bases we want to hit. And we don't have to hit every single one, and you won't hit every single one all the time. But if we can hit them, we have a plan for it and we have those messaging bases set up from the beginning. When you manage your message does not manage you, or it cannot run away. And we have all seen these in press conferences when somebody is unprepared and immediately they start getting challenged, and it gets more and more frustrating to watch. Those little things that we can give people to do, those calls to action, they don't have to be tangible necessarily, right? We can just ask people for patience while we, work through the scene or get the roads open. But those are the kind of takeaways that we can get out immediately and in an organized fashion. 5 questions of doom is something that we do with almost every single thing that we do and communicate here. And it's something that we came up with several years ago, and you can use it for community engagement. You can use it for crisis communication, but you can also use this when you interview. You can use this when you're going into any type of like press conference or community organized conference. But the 5 questions of doom are the questions that you do not want asked, right? The ones that like, I don't really want to have to answer why we didn't get there in a timely fashion, but I know they're going to ask me that. What am I going to say when that is asked of me? I know we didn't get water as quickly as we would have liked to. What am I going to say when they ask me why it took so long to get water on the fire or why it took so long to open the road? Have yourself either a bridge or some type of answer for each of those questions, but come up with your questions of doom ahead of time so that way when they ask you, you're not caught off guard. They're usually like failure points, any contradictions you might have made ahead of time, details you don't want released. That's a great way to go to that policy base and go, we can't release these details at this time because we haven't notified next of kin, or those names can't be released because of HIPAA. Those are policy messages, but we already have an answer. So that way, when we're asked of it, we know we have to bridge to whatever our message point is. And you don't have to be devious. We see a lot of like politicians just completely like go a separate way. We just have to be honest with why we can't do something. And then what the reason is behind it. Or maybe the reason is we're looking into that right now. And I understand your concern. And once we have the answer, we will get back to you at either another press conference or on this social media platform, but give them that tangible area of where they're going to get that information. All right, so I'm going to tell you a little story. So I told you we're on the East Coast over here in Maryland, and Anne Arundel County borders the Chesapeake Bay. And so we have two fireboats, two large fireboats, and one of our fireboats is pictured there here in the corner. And that is the same fireboat that is floating with the bow up there. And this was one of my first days as being the head of the public information office. And we got a Mayday call from our crews on the boats that they had they were taking on water. They were taking on water very fast, and they were about to go in. This was in March. The water was very cold. So, they all were putting on their dry suits, but either way, hypothermia would have set in pretty quickly with the crews. So immediately we had resources coming to them. I had all kinds of media reaching out to me. I set up a media staging, and I started with those bases and that messaging. One of the questions that they asked, and I had anticipated this, was, well, why were you out there? Because they were out there training that day. Why were you out there training with 6 to 8 feet craft advisory? Why would you just take the boat out and risk folks when we're telling other people not to go out there? And because I had already anticipated this, my answer was simple. We have to respond in every emergency even when other crafts didn't listen to the advisory and they're out there in the 6 to 8 feet. If we don't train in it, there is no way possible we would be able uh, to rescue somebody else in that situation. And that was a very easy answer, but it was the narrative that I knew that they were going to run with to begin with, that I started just running through my policy questions and my questions of doom. All right, and then I like to call my other questions my 5 questions of dumb. These aren't necessarily that they'll give you 5 questions. They're like 5 kind of categories of where the questions will come from. Same with the questions of doom. But these are always the questions that you really can't anticipate. They kind of come out of left field, or they are a question to not really ask you about an incident, but to more invoke an emotion or trigger you. It's usually a political agenda, something you might, personally be offended by, or a personal attack on you. Unrelated vents or rants where you just get people that get a platform and now they're going to go off on a completely different incident that they decided this was the moment they were going to ask you about it. Or just stump questions where they just try to stump you. uh, and the best thing you can do with these is have a bridge already ready and go back to your messaging points. And one of the easiest ones is a bridge to whatever prevention or public safety message you want to add to it. If there's an emergency, 9 out of 10 times we can add a public safety message to it. What we need people to know right now is that smoke detectors were not found in this specific residence, and we want people to make sure that they have working smoke detectors. Go home and check your smoke detectors. Don't get into a back and forth with these kind of questions, especially anything that invokes true emotion, because it will start to derail your whole messaging strategy. Communicating under stress can be difficult, especially in crisis. Uh, and Mark Twain said the right word may be effective, but no word was ever as effective as a rightly timed pause. If you need a moment to think, take that pause, don't get defensive, and then go back to your message points. Figure out what you want to say, try to keep the emotion out of it, and show that we have the ability to mitigate this emergency and to remain calm during it. When we are put in stressful situations, we tend to speak fast, find a cadence, pay attention to what the audience is reacting to, and from there, slow down. You can be direct. You don't need to over explain things, and don't ever get into a back and forth debate of things. That's your chance to really find that exit and uh and divert using one of your bridges. And don't be afraid to say, that's all for now. The next update will be in at this time, at this place. The power of stepping away or letting things breathe, especially if emotions start to get high, which can happen in crisis communications, is okay to do that, and then collect yourself, go back, get more information, and come back with new information. At the end of the day, connection matters. Your messaging should somehow connect with those that you are speaking to your audience, to your community members, to the people that you're protecting. Do not give facts like it's a 1995 fire report. On this date and time, at the 1800 block, we had a fire, a lot of people were injured, blah, 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 blah. Like, that was the old way of doing it. We want people who feel like they're a part of the community and understand that people are hurting or that this was a serious incident and what are we doing to try to mitigate it for next time. What would you want to know if you were in the community? What would you want to ask if you were there sitting in the audience getting to ask the questions? Those are the connections you can start to fill in as the speaker doing the communications. All right, so that was crisis. Now we're going to talk about some strategic public relations, things that you could be doing every single day to connect with your communities. We want to be thoughtful in how we relate with the public, but we also should have a goal to find that connection that makes sense. And everybody in the department can help with strategic engagement. These are your recruitment campaigns, your risk reduction campaigns, those human factor stories, reunions, um, you know, uh, things that are happening just inside your department that could be part of that storytelling. And then the open door campaigns. What do we do each and every day? Show them how you train, show them what your folks are doing, show them what the day of the life of your agency is. Your people care about you. I promise you, there is a month or a day for everything now. Use the ones that make sense for your department and your community, but those can just be the little bit of the meaning of why to get you to start doing some of that engagement. So these are two that we did, and we do a lot of these. I'm going to show you some other ones a little bit later on. But we had for Fire Prevention Month, we put Sparky up there and took out part of our logo and added him to the logo, and we made that our all on all of our platforms our logo with the fire escape plan on there. I mean, we change our logo a lot. People really like it. They've just come to like get excited to see what's going to come next. We had a freeze here in Maryland this past winter, and when that happened, uh, like it does here a lot. Temperatures changed drastically, so everything was frozen to include lakes and the rivers, which doesn't happen very often here. So we had a lot of kids ice skating on, rivers and lakes. And then within a day or two, we had, temperatures 40, 50 degrees. So everything was melting rapidly, and that's all moving water. And so we knew that that was going to be a disaster if we still had kids out there ice skating on them. So we did a little melting campaign and told people to get off the ice. It got huge likes and engagement on our social media, but that was just something that we did to try to, tell our folks like, hey, it is no longer safe. It may still look safe, but it's not. Some other things that we like to try to do is when we do our social media posts is, obviously we put in like our messaging in there, but then what are people saying about us, or what are the comments, or what does the likes look like on there? Are they hearts and likes, or are there a lot of like laughing emojis because people aren't taking it seriously? Those are all metrics that we are using. All right, recruitment campaigns are easy. We're all doing it. Whether you're volunteer, whether you're career, find ways to like engage. We do a ton of video reels. This is a great opportunity to do a video reel, and I'm going to pull over to our social media here for a second. Camera rolling. So we did one of these a day, every day that it was open here. And we did a reel every day. We did not pay for a single one. We reached out to, the folks that work for us and with us, and we have a lot of people that do this stuff on their own social media, and we, either paid some overtime or gave them some time back, but and they put together the reels. It came to our office, and we obviously vetted them to make sure that they were good to go out. Uh, we have a station two, so we did a countdown for all of our stations with the numbers on the actual stations or the engines, and for when, how long the application process was going to be open or how long people had. We try to hit every career event we can in our area, and we do not just send like one person that's in the recruitment office. We get everybody in our department that wants to be a part of this to go to these events and engage with the people. And a lot of times the folks that we get are the folks that went to those schools. So they have like an actual connection to them. But recruitment campaigns are great branding opportunities for your department. You can showcase your real members, family focused. Why are you serving? Why should others serve? Use those short videos or reels to kind of catch people in. We're going to talk about the platforms you should be using to recruit in a couple slides here. But what does the day, in the life of this job or this volunteer service look like? Small town identity is going to matter. So make sure you're not just taking, copy and paste graphics. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a couple slides, but use your own stuff. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm telling you, your community members would rather see your items or their own communities and the firefighters in those communities than the copy paste graphics. Risk reduction campaigns, great outreach. You can do so many things with these, and we really do try to do pretty much everything. If we take a graphic that we got from NFPA or FEMA, which a lot of them are great, we throw our logo on it, right? So that way we still are branding it. But then we try to do other things. We did a prom promise. We did several prom promises this past year with the schools. We got the drama teams involved. They were posting like a whole build-up story to the actual like prom promise where we then put all the makeup on them and cut them out of the cars in front of the whole senior class. And those go huge because they see their friends in these posts and they start to share them with their other friends. So they really do get a lot of engagement because they like to see each other in the posts. If there's an initiative that we can support, this was uh, an ocular cancer awareness, and we had somebody in our department that was connected to somebody who had ocular cancer, and they wanted to do this whole initiative. And so we were like, great, they had pretty much done the work for us, and we just took the pictures and highlighted it. Smoke detectors are always easy, always something that we're doing. The stations in red, we sent all of our fire stations red lights for the National Night Out and said, for the weekend, light your stations up red and send us a picture. And they did. They went above and beyond on it. It was really cool to see. And then we try to use the numbers on our stations for almost anything that we can. And that's, the 3 feet from a heat source, keep anything that can burn at least 3 feet. And these things are not stuff that you have to come up on your own. Follow us on social media, follow other departments that are doing really good things, and steal it. People steal our stuff all the time, and my folks on my teams used to get so upset at first. And I'm like, I'm telling you, it's a really good thing when people are stealing your stuff. So don't be afraid to take different ideas. Just make it your own and put your own little flair on it. People will engage with prevention more than they ever will with a stat. Give them real world examples. These are always some of my favorite things to do. These are, the storytelling. Our first post here is just EMS week. And, we posted a bunch of our EMTs and paramedics in the field just doing what they do. And, those posts just tend to go get huge engagement. The second one there is we had he was in his 50s, had a heart attack, no medical history. Wife found him and called 911. Fire department came. They got ROSC, and he was walking out of the hospital the next day. So he wanted to come back and meet everybody. These are ones that you have to kind of wait for them to reach out to you, but they usually do. And we don't like to try to force people into this. They have to be authentic, but you'll get them. You'll get the letters, of people that want to engage, and those like reunions like that where lives are saved and they get to meet. It's also on a wellness side for your medics and your firefighters is such a good thing for them to have that follow up with these patients that they're helping. So it really is, it's a benefit to both sides. We have never ever had any of our firefighters say I don't want to do a reunion. We would never make any of our firefighters do it, but they're always like super excited when they get to see people. They don't necessarily want to be in all the social media pictures, but they always want to see and meet the person afterwards. And then the last one was some ducklings that we saved this past week. And this one got about, I think, 70,000 views on Facebook. Anything you do with animals, and I would assume in Montana you guys do a lot of things with animals. People love animals, so if you can have your fire, and these are just things where our firefighters know we're not sending PIOs out to this. Our firefighters know that if they take pictures of these things, we have a designated email address. It's called fdphoto at aacounty.org, and they can send us their photos, and we get them, and they just, uh, they will set up each day after each shift. We'll get photos, and then we'll look up the calls and we'll highlight them. So these are not things that we're going out and grabbing it. We're just asking our folks to do it, and they love it. Open door campaigns. That first middle picture here, that's our K9 officer, Jessie. She is a ATF accelerant dog detection K9, and she was her handler sent us a picture of her in the pool cooling off, so we've tied it into some water safety too and posted that. And of course, that got great engagement. We had 2 new fireboats christened. We had a whole christening event for them. Like we poured fake champagne and invited the community to come on. We probably had over 100 people at these events, and to see the new fireboats, we obviously had kind of, prompted it for several weeks ahead of time. But people want to see what's in their community. They want to see what they have. They like to bring their kids. They like to, get on the fire engines, get on the fire trucks, get on the boats. So it was a really great event. And then if you have dispatchers, do not forget about them. We try to highlight them whenever we can. They are oftentimes the folks that do get forgotten, and they should not. They are the first responders, and so we like to make sure that people remember that there's a face to the person that they're calling. Know your communities. What kind of communities are you serving? Is it a tourist town? Is it mostly tourists right now? Can you put QR codes up to have your tourists start following you on Facebook immediately? Suburban communities, tribal communities, retirement communities. Where are they getting their information from? Is it Facebook or is it media? So a lot of them are still getting it from actual local agencies, local media agencies, and not from Facebook. College towns, now you're talking a whole different platform, right? TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Are you utilizing those platforms if that's who your community is? And then ranchers, but know how people get their information because you want to engage on platforms that people are actually utilizing in your communities. I said it earlier and I'm going to say it again. Do not copy and paste. You won't get any engagement on these. You're going to get, maybe 100 views if you're lucky. But once you start personalizing them, man, they'll go far. So, the bottom one there was our Thanksgiving message. We tied it into turkey fryers, but we do a huge give back and we put together bags for meals for people during Thanksgiving. Obviously, like a fire prevention talk, or even our Christmas, graphic. We added in our logo as the sun. The hydrant, adopt a fire hydrant, that was a fun one. That was actually my son and two of his friends in our neighborhood. I made them go out there and get shovels, and I took a picture and we posted it. And we were getting a snowstorm, and we wanted people to clear out their hydrants. We don't have the big, antenna on them here like you all do in Montana. So we took a picture, and the fun thing about that is because they were in the neighborhood, a ton of our neighborhood folks just shared the picture because it was their kids. So it ended up getting quite a bit of engagement just because people know who these kids are. I will just say this: if you are going to post kids, make sure you have permission from the parents before you do. The stay off the ice is we went down and took some pictures of them training, doing these rescues, and then we tied it into our own messaging of stay off the ice. But those are our folks doing that training. And we put that in our posts as well. So we like people to know that. You cannot copy and paste. You got to make it personal, your department, to your department. I think branding is everything. If people know that that's your fire engine, that's your fire crews, that is your agency, immediately they can get like a sense of relief when they have that trust with you. Use your community members to share your messages. When you engage with them, invite them to events, have different CPR classes, just different outreach events. We do National Night Out, huge events throughout the county where we bring people in and we let them, get on the fire engines, get in the ambulances, talk to our folks. Those are those moments that you get to teach, educate, but it also builds trust. All right, so let's talk a little bit about social media, and I'm not going to go on this too much, but just food for thought and some of this stuff. Your age groups are on your left, so 13 to 17, you got 72% using Instagram. I have 3 kids. I have a son who just graduated at Coastal. I have a daughter who's going to Montana State. And then I have a middle schooler, and I can tell you my middle schooler is not on anything because I don't let him, but my 2 older ones don't even have Facebook, and they're in their 20s. So if you're putting everything on Facebook, especially recruitment, you're losing a huge number of your demographic especially for recruitment. We have to start engaging on different platforms, and there's plenty of tools out there even free that you can utilize so that you can hit multiple ones with one post. Meta pretty much owns half of it. So, get a Meta business page and then you can hit Instagram, Meta, X, and Threads is the other one. I don't know how many people use Threads, but we still do post there. It's kind of like Instagram for Meta. News advisories. News advisories. If you want the media to pick something up, they're using X out here. I'm not sure if that's the same in Montana, but if I want my media to start covering it, I'll immediately put it on X. So like my calls, I don't like to drown out a lot of my engagement on our like Facebook and Instagram. So I'll use X for a lot of our calls and what's kind of happening, unless it's really big, and then I'll start putting it on Facebook and Instagram too. But just the like everyday stuff, I try to use X for that. Ring is a good one for actually like localized areas. And then YouTube is really underrated for agencies, but I'll show you in a slide here. YouTube is being used on for a lot of different ages. This one just tells you that if, you're in the younger 18 to 29, you're probably getting most of your news from either a website or social media. And if you're over 50, you're probably still watching local news. So there is value to still sending those press briefs. Even though you're breaking your own news, send it over to your local news because that will get out to a demographic, especially if you have like retirement communities in your area. This has got a lot of noise in it, but I just want you to look at that light blue line. That is YouTube right there. And YouTube is pretty high across all ages until you get above 65. So we use our YouTube for a lot of our fire prevention and just our like kind of community outreach messages, not as much for our like um, crisis messaging, but we do put a lot of our just our educational stuff out there. I'm telling you, once you get a hold of social media, it is truly an influence, and it can be used for good or for bad. This is a local page that we have here that likes to post on everything that the fire department and the police department does around here. They don't really care about accuracy, as you can see. They just care about being first, and everybody kind of knows that. So they go to first alert to find out, that there's a call, and then they come back to us to find out what's really going on. AI has become more and more utilized as a tool, and I think it is something, especially in our departments where we do not all have, 10-person teams to do this stuff. AI is absolutely a tool you can use. Just be very careful with it because it does not give accurate information all the time. Brand yourself. So these are some of the other logos that we did. The Preakness was just here in Anne Arundel County this past weekend. So, and it was at our station 27. So that's why the horse has 27 on there. So we had that up all weekend for the Preakness here. Obviously for Veterans Day, we did the military logo, time to vote, Earth Day. But we like to have fun with it. And it's actually become kind of something that everybody just like waits for and then kind of rates them for us. So it's kind of cool. My team enjoys doing them. But brand it, make it yours. So common pitfalls when it comes to engagement or messaging is if you're emotional, it's going to come off as emotional and desperate. If you've ever been upset at somebody or been like real fired up and wanted to send an email and you typed it out and you walked away before sending it, when you came back, chances are you didn't send that same email. You deleted a lot of it because we do not message the same when we are at a heightened emotional state. And you have to remember that when we're on these scenes, they can obviously have a very real impact on us as well. So we have to manage what is our emotional state. Is this something that I should pass off to somebody else? And it's okay to do that. That's why you should have more than one person that can do these things. Inconsistent messaging or multiple platforms. I've seen departments where they give somebody the carte blanche to start an Instagram or a Facebook page, and then the person does it for a while, and then they stop or they leave the department, and then nobody else can get on it. And so they start another one. And so when your community members are looking for the official one, they don't really know which one is the official one anymore. So just, make sure that when you're starting those pages or when you are messaging that you guys have consistent messaging across the board on all platforms. I'm going to tell you right now, nothing is off the record ever. So if you're talking to anybody in the media, your local media, they truly, they just want a soundbite. They just want to inform the public, but they are not ever necessarily off the record. So just be careful with that. You don't have to over explain. Tell them what you're doing, tell them why you're doing it. That's the policy part of it and the procedures. And then, highlight your folks or thank the people that are helping you, dispel any rumors. And then again, AI is a great tool right now, but don't become dependent on AI. This is a graphic that was just done the other day with the eye patch awareness initiative that we did that was done by the union here. And if you look closely at the logo, his hat, and even his belt, none of that is our stuff or what he was wearing. So it changed it, but they put it out anyways. And then all of the comments were about the fact that it was an AI instead of what the actual message was. So just be careful with AI right now. If everybody in the community is talking or commenting on something that can easily be addressed, just address it. Do it professionally, but it shows that they can trust you, that you're going to give accurate information, and then move on from it. Once you address it, you don't have to keep going in the comments with people. There's no point in arguing back and forth. That's that arguing, with the idiot concept. Address what it is, put out the factual information, and then move on. What does this all lead up to? Building trust. Once once your community start to trust you and start to engage with you, they want more. To the point where we have to turn people away because we have so many events in some weekends that we just don't have the resources to do them all. And also, still complete the mission, which is to, respond to emergencies. So those are great problems to have. But transparency, people will forgive a mistake faster than they ever will a cover up. And if you start, be consistent with it. Please try to keep up with it, whether it's, fire prevention, outreach, initiatives, whether it's recruitment, whether it's your social media, whether it's introducing like firefighters, but you got to keep up with it. And it doesn't have to be one person, because I'm going to tell you right now, social media it's all encompassing and it's every day, 24 hours a day, and not one person can do that. So you have to have people designated that can help with those things, have them make the posts, have, those are where some of that AI can come in to help. Just again, make sure you're vetting it. Be visible. If they only see you in a crisis, your trust becomes transactional. You don't want to be an insurance agency. You want to be a part of that community. Authenticity will pay you back in tenfold. Sound human. Don't sound like that fire report from 1995. Just talk to them like you would want somebody to talk to you in those layman terms. All right, so we're going to kind of end with some of this. How do we measure it? How do we know? How do we know it's working? We can't necessarily measure likes. I think those are kind of vanity metrics. But what I can measure is it, are they all likes and hearts, or are they laughing emojis? Or what are the comments saying? Are the comments, you know, like this EMS post that went out? It was a neighboring agency. It was from the department agency. I won't throw the actual agency under the bus, but the first comment, or the one that's getting the most engagement, is like, smile, act like you're having fun. Right away, I'm going to look at that and go, this isn't the message that we wanted, right? From that picture. We wanted to highlight our folks, and that's not what people are perceiving that to be. So I'm going to immediately try to divert, maybe add some pictures to the post, whatever the case may be. But that's a huge metric to me. If my comments aren't what the intended message was supposed to be. Are people coming out? Are they asking for you to do these events? Are they showing up to your events? Do they want you to come? Are they sending in those letters? Are you getting applications? Are you getting recruitment inquiries? That public feedback, those stakeholders. This was Nurses Week, and we highlighted one of our hospitals. We have two hospitals here, and the other hospital was like, "Hey, what about us?" And so we, ran down there and we did them too. And that's a good feeling when people like, we want to be a part of it, and that is a huge metric to engage your engagement with the community. Just evaluate them. What's the majority of your comments, right? Not, you're always going to have one or two. You're always going to have, the one person that's just trying to like spam people. But when I have 200, and 7 likes and hearts, and it's all about like, how thankful they are, or 135, and then, people are writing not just like thank you, but they're actually like writing about how they engaged with our members. Um, you know, those to me mean a lot more than just whether or not people are engaging in it? Are they engaging with the intended message? If you do a department page, you should be using some sort of a dashboard. Again, Meta gives you a free one, so you don't have to pay for one. This is the Meta one. This is the free one. And I know it's a little hard to see, but one of the things, if you look down, I'm gonna just put my cursor on here, is this one right here. That is a post that we did after that freeze this year where we rescued a dog and it got 427,000 engagement on just that post. And in total, because it was shared so much, it had 734,000 compared to, you can see most of ours are anywhere between 5,000 to, 50,000 or 100,000. But like, people will start following you if you put the stuff out there. They want to see what's happening in their community. And then that same dashboard will give you the same metrics on the other side here, with how much those, what are your posts normally doing? What did this post do? So you can look at that specific one. That's that dog post that I was showing you. So obviously the pink line at the bottom is like where most of ours are, which most of ours are right around 40,000. And, that one hit 700. So that was a good one for us. Um, and yeah, the bottom one is just the bottom one. All it is like is a thank you reunion, and 50,000 people engaged in that. That's huge. All right, Jen, great. You've been talking a lot. I know my voice is actually feeling hoarse from not being able to hear you all back. Um, but let's just pull it all together. What is this? What does this all really truly mean? Tell your story, you guys. Tell your story of your agencies. Advocate if you're not, in the command staff or, one of the necessarily the officer. Most of the people that do our social media are not in the command staff. They are our members in the field working it. We try to come up with all kinds of different ways to connect. That's obviously a recruitment thing where instead of putting, somebody's name on it, we put your name here, and that goes to all of our recruitment events. Uh, the the gentleman here that just ran the Boston Marathon, he works for us. He was like so excited and he was telling us about it, and we were like, hey, do you mind if we highlight it? Like, it shows that our folks are taking fitness seriously and that we care about what they do when, when they're off. Uh, Up to the right there, that actually the girl in the fire jacket is actually a reporter. So we got her to put the jacket on to interview one of our firefighters. He's somebody that does a lot of our recruitment events with us. He's in the field, and he's like, I don't know if I can answer questions. And she was great. She just wanted to get like some good sound bites from this recruitment thing. So I was like, yeah, interview him. It'll be great. And he was excited. She was excited. But we made her be a part of it as well. What's happening when there's a car in a sinkhole? Like, people are hearing about that. They want to visualize it. Get somebody to grab a picture, or if you can get somebody to get out there and get a picture, then put that stuff up and show the specialty things that your folks can do, because we all know that every emergency is not the same, and we do some really cool things. Highlight that stuff. Community trust is built one interaction at a time. Communicate early, engage regularly, lead and be consistent. Managing information is no longer an option in the fire service. It is a part of your response. Trust and engagement are built over time. It is not easy. Be present, be authentic, and be consistent. I'm telling you, your communities already love you. I'm going to just pull this up quick. But this is our Facebook feed, and I require 1 to 2 posts a day. And it is constant and it's everything. And it is truly something that takes time and effort, but once they start engaging, they don't really want to stop. So it becomes easier and easier the more you do it. And I'm telling you, your folks are going to already be dialed in. They just got to know where to get the information. So with that, I thank you for your time and I open it up to any questions and you can truly ask me anything. I have 25 years with both police and fire. And I absolutely love this job. I've done pretty much everything. So if there's anything I can answer for anybody, I'm happy to do that. They might all be asleep, Michael.
Oh, I think it was great. Thank you, Jenny. So folks, please turn your cameras on and engage with Jenny. We have about another half an hour of the training. So please, tap into her. She's like a wealth of knowledge. So she's definitely the person to be asking about some of this PR and con stuff.
I'm happy to give any advice too. I know, I understand that personnel is not where we all want to be right now. And so, command staff is not, necessarily prioritizing some of this stuff, like, what are some of the out of the box things of how we can get these things done. But when we started, that's really what we were. We were out of boxing it. So happy to give you some pointers on any of that as well.
Well, thank you, Jenny. I think you really when you said about being consistent, that is probably one of my biggest things. It's like I get, I get a campaign and I do really well, and then I travel for a week and instead of planning ahead, I, don't post for a week. So being consistent and just to keep people engaged, I think is really, really important and probably one of the biggest struggles when you get busy. And it's great that you have staff. So maybe you have, I like how you said you can just assign it to people, that are going to be around and having a good team. But yeah, that's probably the
The
toughest
other
thing
thing
is
that we
finding the
do
time.
that I didn't mention is we sit down at the beginning of the week because it was really just two of us at first, and we sit down at the beginning of the week because you can schedule all of your social media
Yeah.
out. So we make sure at the very least, now obviously we're not going to be able to do any of like the incidents that are happening right then and there. Those are things that you're going to need people to do, but we at least have some sort of engagement every day scheduled out at the beginning of the week.
Yeah. So did you see Jason?
Jason,
Yeah.
what training do you recommend for new or young volunteer PIO personnel? So FEMA has a bunch of free online classes. Start with the awareness class. It's online. It'll take you less than a half a day to do. And then they have, several other classes on like social media, all online through FEMA. So go to their website and just put in like public information or social media. And then from there, they have a basic class that they obviously give at the National Fire Academy here in Maryland, but a lot of places do. I'm sure you do like local stuff right there in Montana with the different classes, and then from there they go all the way up to an advanced um, PIO course, but that's all going to start to be like an in-person. But like I said, they'll do it locally, so you just gotta kind of look and see where they're doing the classes.
Thanks, Jenny. Also, I noticed how you kind of partner with other organizations. That's always, I mean, a lot of like there's weeks, right? Like Vision 2020 and NFPA, they all have weeks and like EMS week and stuff. So I love it. And they're really you can really find something a day for almost every single everything thing. So that's a really good tool too, because they put out like things that you can copy, right? They put out tools. And so that's always a good way to get some social media is by, using other people's tools and resources.
And sometimes we'll just share other people's, right? Like if
Yeah.
it's, our police department or a mutual aid department that's doing something good, we'll just share their post, give them some traction and then they do the same thing for us. Emma, I'm very new to the fire industry. Is there a way to find out local or state laws parameters for what we can and can't post? Yes. Start with the Public Information Act. And you probably have a Montana Public Information Act as well. So you'll have like the federal one and then a state one that should be online and accessible to you. The federal one absolutely is. But it'll talk to you about like if you're doing like a fatal fire investigation, if it's part of the actual investigatory parameters. Those things have to be, you have to get permission from the investigating agency to release. Obviously, the HIPAA stuff, what you can post in there. There's going to be a lot of things in that document that are never going to apply to you. Ignore all that because it's just noise. But look at the sections that do apply to things that you would actually end up putting out. because those are the big things. And then there's just like talk to your like media people. There's just like general rules too. Like for instance, if there's a fatal crash, we can release the name as soon as we have it, but we know that we want to make sure that the family gets notified first. That's not in necessarily a law. That's just one of those kind of rules that everybody abides by, and because they know it's just the right thing to do. So there's kind of those parameters as well that are just not really written, but are just good, especially when you're trying to be a professional agency and communicate in a professional manner. The last thing you would want is your community mad at you because of how you're posting those scenes. One thing that I always tell any of my, because we have several volunteer agencies here in Anne Arundel County, and so a lot of them have their own page. And one thing I remind them all the time is if you are on a scene of somebody's home, you are not allowed to post any inside pictures of their house. That is protected by privacy. You are in their house for exigent circumstances under that purview of the Fourth Amendment. And so you're not in there to violate their privacy. You're in there to mitigate whatever emergency they're having. So be very careful. People, have like the cameras on the helmets, and they'll take still shots of that. None of that is legally allowed to go out. You have to be in a public view spot to post a picture of an emergency like that where they have privacy rights. All right. Can you talk a little more about dealing with bad issues, an incident that does not go well, or personnel matters that are getting public attention? What is the best way to get ahead of those? Because it seems like we usually start behind the curve. Yeah, almost all the time, I would absolutely agree with you, Ronald. We do start behind the curve. The quicker you can get ahead of it, the better. When you have bad issues, they don't want to hear from your firefighters. They want to hear from somebody in your command staff or even the head of the agency on why that happened. Be honest. I mean, that's really the best thing I can tell you, as long as you're not throwing your members under the bus necessarily. But a lot of times the bad issues are because something wasn't planned the way that we thought it was. I mean, I think as firefighters, we're really good at setting up plans, those pre-plans, and then we go to them, and for whatever reason that week or that day, that hydrant wasn't working, or we had to pull a tanker from somewhere else because somebody else was already out on a call. Those kind of things, like those things, are easy to be honest with. When it comes to actual like members getting in trouble, we have had we had a member that on video that went viral here, drunk fighting with police. And, I immediately went and said that is not conduct that is acceptable for our firefighters. And that person is going to have to go through the criminal process, and then we will look to do the administrative process. But we immediately had a statement about what is the conduct and our expectation as a department. So those are things that, and I would even say those are really good things to utilize AI for as suggestions when you have bad issues, is type that stuff into your AIs that you trust and to get suggestions on how to message some of those things, because it'll give you a lot of different like examples or suggestions on how to frame it where you are still being honest and transparent, but also acknowledging that it was, a screw up or something that we need to do better or something that we don't necessarily condone, when it comes to like behavior and things like that. Did that answer your question?
We have a shy bunch tonight.
Yeah, use your local media for that stuff too. They, when there's something that people are already talking about, they will absolutely um, grab those sound bites. But don't, yeah, ignoring it's going to be probably the worst thing you can do.
Any other questions for Captain Jenny?
Any other resources or courses you would recommend? Well, any kind of communication course. And I will tell you that probably the best course that I ever took that helped me as not only a communicator, but just as a leader would be an emotional intelligence course. And I'm not talking like a 1 hour course, I'm talking like a full course. So if you can find any emotional intelligence courses, it's really like to test your own emotional IQ, find out what things trigger you. You do a lot of self-reflection, how people perceive you, and especially if you ever plan to, get promoted or lead people, I would say that master's level course that I took on emotional intelligence was probably one of the most beneficial things as far as how to communicate and also how to understand how my communication is affecting other people or how other people are affecting how I'm communicating. Absolutely.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you so much, Jenny. We really appreciate your time tonight. And again, for those who joined, thank you for taking the time. I know everyone has a busy schedule, and we really appreciate you taking the time. And we will share the recordings. You can share it with your colleagues. But yeah, this was really, really interesting. I'm not in fire. I do the administrative stuff, and I learned a lot. I'm gonna steal some of your ideas. So
Good.
really
Steal them
appreciate that.
all.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Well,
All
thank you
right.
guys so much. I appreciate you and I appreciate your time. So thank you.
Thank you. You take care. Have a good evening.